So in the table of contents, we're going to have overview of the data breach, timeline of the breach, vulnerability, defensive strategy, offensive strategy, and some preventive measures, and then we're going to have our closing facts at the end. So a quick overview of the breach that happened at Equifax. In 2017, Equifax suffered a data breach from an exploit in a Java web-based platform program. This program was used to upload complaint forms on Equifax's website that used a software called Apache Struts. Apache Struts is an open source code used for Java-based software. Equifax was notified of a patch that fixed a vulnerability in the code, but they neglected to fix the issue promptly. This neglect over time resulted in over 143 million customers' personal as well as confidential information being exposed and sold all over the world. Equifax has since then upgraded their servers and systems by spending billions of dollars on hardware, software to prevent further intrusions. Since Equifax acted so negligently, their actions were futile by potential customers. There's a timeline that I have from the events that went down with Equifax. So on the 6th of March 2017, the vulnerability affecting multiple versions of Apache Struts was disclosed. On the 23rd, the exploit named CVE 2017-5638 was posted on GitHub. Fast forward to May 2017, that same exploit was shared on criminal forums where hundreds of criminals downloaded. Then we move to August. When we move to July, data breach discovered by Equifax. And in August, fraud prevention service forwarded detects 15% increase in credit card fraud that month. Equifax chief financial officer sells Equifax shares, and the president of the U.S. Information Solutions sold stock worth of $584,000. Also in August, the president of Workforce Solutions sold U.S. $250,000 of Equifax shares. In September, Equifax discloses a breach after a total of approximately 6 months. 2 domains registered using details linked to employee company of Mandiant, which were named Equifax, and equivalent hacks. The purposes of the domains were unknown. So we're going to speak a little bit on the vulnerability that was detected by Apache Struts. The vulnerability named CVE 2017-5638 was a critical Apache Struts 2 patch vulnerability. Apache Struts is a Java-based program that uses Struts 2 framework. It's an open source content framework that people that have the source can change the code for their programs and software to work with their company's needs. Apache Struts 2 found a vulnerability in the content header that allows attackers to include code and the content type of the header of an HTTP request. This affected all Windows users as well as Linux. In Windows, it would test which operating system it's on and issue a command.exe execution and infect the system. For Linux, it will issue like a command line and infect it that way. So we're going to go over the defensive strategies that were put into place for the presentation. We got IAM policy, procedures, and technical controls. Under the exploitation of the Equifax breach, IAM played an important role when it comes to defensive strategy. Equifax following IAM would have reduced risk, secured access for the service that were picked apart, and met compliance requirements for data protection regulations. Being protective, being proactive is key here. Following IAM policy and procedures for methods for identifying and assigning responsibilities to personnel was key involved in a breach. So they said that what the analysts said when they checked the reports, an employee negligently forgot to update the software, and this is what kicked off the whole breach. He didn't update the systems, he didn't patch them, and their scanning systems didn't detect it either. So an approach with NIST CSF Equifax 2017 data breach consisted of negligent personnel that should have followed basic principles when it came to being defensive. NIST CF could have greatly benefited them by following such the 5 functions of NIST CSF. When you have identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. They could have also followed the standards for CIS, CSC. They could have established, maintained a software inventory. This could have helped the chart, knowing if softwares and systems were outdated and needed to be updated. Penetration testing and undertaking regular independent penetration testing throughout their company could have also prevented this. Consider implementing security information and event management SIEM system, as well as review event logs on a regular basis. Excuse me. We're going to have defensive strategy continue, defensive elements for measures and responsibilities. Equifax could have updated their application security. They could have went over their negligent user behavior and the inadequate training for their employees. Antivirus software could have been put into play. Firewalls like force points, defense organizations against emerging malware and other exploits that you could respond to incidents in minutes, not hours. Behavioral analysts can send alerts or execute controls to prevent a breach from continuing further. Threat hunting helps reduce the time from intrusion to discovery, reducing the amount of damage done by attackers. Offensive elements and responsibilities. Active penetration testing simulates the cyber attack, evaluates the states of their network for preventive measures. White box, gray box, black box, based on the level of background information provided to the tester. Ethical hacking, red team and blue team strategies. Offensive cybersecurity strategies will not eliminate all risk from an attack, but are extremely valuable in reducing the possibility of such attacks through a continuous state of readiness. Okay, let's go over offensive strategy. Over the past years, IAM is needed more than ever. With a strong IAM process, this can reduce the risk even greater. When involving offensive security, IAM is beneficial as follows for Equifax breach 2017. By providing privilege control accounts, cyber risk from excessive privileges go undetected, which can allow intruders to expand their own abilities and privileges from those compromised privileged accounts. An IAM for the employee that lackluster his job description, automation could have been key to prevent user error. A program in place that automatically updated and patched the systems would have helped and added a helping hand. For web application for Equifax, Equifax was breached through their web-based platform used for complaints. This page itself was breached, involving either upload capabilities from the broken code from Java-based platforms. Equifax needs to keep this application updated. So they could have used bug bounty programs. These programs, operated by third-party testers, can be testing measures to find bugs and issues with Equifax public web-based programs and prevent further intrusions. Red team, they could put a red team and blue team in place. Red teams conduct scheduled testing of web-based applications that are created by third-party companies. Hire outside source trained security professionals that can attack and penetrate Equifax servers to find vulnerabilities and patch or correct issues. They also could train Equifax employees to demonstrate the attack so that they can get familiar with the system and the results. On the blue team, identify security flaws and verify effectiveness against the red team. Show processes of maintaining the security against the red team through mock attackers. Also provide mitigation techniques for Equifax's employees. So we're going to offer strategy continue, expired SSL website certificates, selecting the right SL certificate, renew ahead of expiration date, provide a program that reminds of such events ahead of time. They could have went over the permitted authenticator types under NIST 863B, have employees follow password guidelines. During the attack, they had passwords that were exposed because they had a description and encrypted. They were unencrypted, so the attackers got a hold of them and started changing passwords and exposing people's social security numbers, driver's license numbers, date of birth, and addresses. They could have went over the 4.1 authenticator assurance level. That's under NIST 863B. This will ensure employees that they understand the severity of non-encrypted data. When we talk preventive measures, during the course of events that took place, Equifax had numerous opportunities to prevent attack from growing as it did. With cybersecurity, we have to be ahead of the curve as much as we can. As bad actors and teams of bad actors are getting smarter every day, Equifax could have took action when they noticed their employees didn't follow procedure and manually patch the system. There could have been a crew of employees that verified the work of others as a preventive measure. Equifax should have kept their SSL certificates up to date. They could have had an automated system in play, which is run by humans, that automatically updates systems patches to create less human error. Once they were notified by the company and created a program, they could have took action immediately instead of waiting. There was a lot of finger pointing going on whenever they contacted a third-party company and they told them that their systems were out of date. Multi-factor authentication features for the passwords that were not encrypted, patching with IAM practices, penetration testing with third-party countries, and proper staff training, which I think is very important here. Low morale in companies will lead for employees to get complacent and work lackluster, and this was the whole reason that this breach came into play. So closing facts, lessons learned from the 2000 Equifax data breach. Number one, importance of proper patching. Importance of keeping systems up to date, including hardware and software. Bad actors are creating new viruses and new backdoors every day. They still prey on old patches and old firmware, even when they're updated, just to see if somebody fixed something that was supposed to be fixed. Attacks are not always involving currency in return. Revenge and to teach a lesson exist as well. Most importantly, police your employees on company policy and procedures so they know the severity of securing cybersecurity. Thank you for your time.